What's going on, everybody? It's the NFL Exporter checking in for Raw Radio. You're now tuned in to the Exporter Sports Talk Show. And it's about that time. Tomorrow night, the NFL season kicks off. We got the Green Bay Packers going to the Seattle Seahawks. Definitely is going to be a great game. And we certainly did our due diligence here. We had an outstanding preseason. We covered all of our bases. We did our fantasy football rankings for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defense, special teams, and kickers. And so if you're in the fantasy football league, certainly helped that the expertise and advice that was given on the show helped you put a championship team together as far as your fantasy football rosters. We'll certainly be touching basis on some fantasy football today. And then we broke down the entire AFC conference, division by division, team by team. Broke down the entire NFC conference, division by division, team by team. And so if you're just a pure NFL football fan, you had the best in-depth analysis and breakdowns that you can possibly find anywhere on television, on radio, or the internet. That's right, put the word out. The NFL Exporter, Raw Radio, the Exporter Sports Talk Show, brings you the best in-depth analysis and breakdown that you're going to find anywhere in the media ranks. And if somebody begs to differ, I'm calling them out now. I'm going to make sure I leave the call-in number. Hit me up. You're going to have our Twitter, our social networks. And so definitely putting it out there. There is none better in the business. The NFL Exporter, bringing it to you live each and every week on Raw Radio with the Exporter Sports Talk Show. All right. And so we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. We got a great show lined up today. We're into our official regular season now. This is our kickoff show. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at all the games that are being played this upcoming week. And then also we're going to start our show off again by taking a look at our fantasy football rankings. I know a lot of people, myself included, just came off a big draft weekend. You know, the preseason ended last Thursday. So we had a chance to evaluate talent, get the official depth charts, and make some adjustments to our initial rankings that we did back in July. All right, so starting off at the quarterback position, I'm just going to run through the top 10 again real quick. We had Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Nick Foles, Andrew Luck, Matt Ryan, and Jay Cutler, as well as Tony Romo. And so all of those quarterbacks are still etched in stone. Certainly expecting big seasons for all of them. And when we get over to our running backs, top 10 running backs were Adrian Peterson, Jamal Charles, Matt Forte, LaShawn McCoy, Eddie Lacy, Marshawn Lynch, Monty Ball, DeMarco Murray, Alfred Morris, and Doug Martin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so all those guys are firmly fixed in place. We're certainly expecting big seasons from them. And then our top 10 wide receivers, Calvin Johnson, Demaryius Thomas, Dez Bryant, A.J. Green, Julio Jones, Brandon Marshall, Vincent Jackson, Keenan Allen, Alshon Jeffrey, and Jordy Nelson. All of those guys are certainly going to have big seasons. That did not change at all. Then we take a look at our tight ends. We had Jimmy Graham, Rob Gronkowski, Julius Thomas, Vernon Davis, Jason Witten, Greg Olsen, Charles Clay, Jordan Cameron, Dennis Pitta, and Martellus Bennett. That did not change at all. We were right on point with those. So if you have those fantasy players on your team, like I said, I just rattled off the top 10 there. You certainly are in for a big season. If you were able to grab any of those four, especially the top tier guys, your fantasy football team certainly has the foundation and makings of a championship caliber team. We certainly had to fill in the pieces. And as we move along, you'll see that we'll bring all the other players who were ranked from 10 to 20, 11 through 20, 21 to 30, and on down the list. We'll bring everybody into the fold as we continue on through the season. Top 10 fantasy football defenses: Seattle Seahawks, San Francisco 49ers, St. Louis Rams, Arizona Cardinals, Green Bay Packers, New England Patriots, Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens, Denver Broncos, all of those defenses certainly set up to have a lot of success. Some of those teams, notably the Seahawks, the Rams, the Packers, Baltimore, certainly has some big names returning kickoffs and punt returns, so that'll certainly help add to the equation as well as far as forcing turnovers. And then for our kickers, we have Matt Prater, who we've got an asterisk by him. We're going to talk about him in just a quick second here. Just had some breaking news over the last week or so concerning Matt Prater and another Denver Bronco. Nonetheless, we have Matt Prater, Steven Gostkowski, Nick Novak, Adam Vinatieri, Shane Graham, Robbie Gould, Nick Freese, Mason Crosby, Phil Dawson, and Steven Hauschka and Justin Tucker. All of those guys certainly are on pace to be top 10 kickers in fantasy football this year. Now, the breaking news that we have concerning NFL football right now, and we got a couple breaking stories, so let's go ahead and dive right in. First and foremost, Wes Welker, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, suspended the first 4 games of the season, was busted for performance enhancement drugs. The reason that I mentioned Welker as well as Denver's kicker, Matt Prater, he's going to be suspended the first 4 games of the season for violating the NFL's alcohol substance abuse policy. And so you have 2 major pieces to the Denver Broncos puzzle that are going to miss the first 4 games of the season for violating NFL policy procedures. Now, I don't expect this to affect the Broncos in a big time way. You know, obviously, I'm quite sure whoever's kicking the ball for them, the Broncos put up enough points that they'll be able to overcome that. And the Broncos do have some big time weapons in Demaryius Thomas. He was a top 5 fantasy receiver. Julius Thomas was a top 5 fantasy tight end. And Emmanuel Sanders was an excellent pickup from the Pittsburgh Steelers to replace Eric Decker. And so I certainly expect for the train to continue moving in Denver, but 2 of their players will miss the first 4 games of the season. And we'll see, how it plays out for both of those guys when they return. Some other breaking news from the last time that we chopped it up. Josh Gordon of the Cleveland Browns, their star wide receiver who led the NFL in receiving yards last year. We were awaiting to hear word on his appeal from his suspension. The NFL stuck to their guns. He is suspended for the entire 2014 NFL season. So obviously that puts a huge dent in the Cleveland Browns' hopes of being competitive in the AFC North and the AFC Conference as a whole. Their offense more than likely is going to struggle an awful lot. That guy was definitely the heart and soul of that offense. So wide receiver Josh Gordon will not be on the football field this upcoming NFL season. Another topic to note. The NFL has recently introduced a new policy for domestic violence. You know that the big news in the offseason was the Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice was suspended 2 games for a domestic violence dispute that he had. At the time, it was his fiance. They are currently married now, but TMZ actually had the film footage showing Rice dragging his unconscious girlfriend out of an elevator. And so that obviously made a lot of big news. But the bigger news was that he only received a 2-game suspension. You have NFL players being suspended 4 games for performance enhancement drugs, 1 game for marijuana. And especially the women out there were very beside themselves to know that you have a man here putting his hands on a woman, and he basically got a slap on the wrist. And so the new policy that Commissioner Roger Goodell, he came out and said that he apologized, that he made a mistake, that he dropped the ball on the suspension for Rice. The new policy states that the first suspension, if there is a player who's involved in a domestic violence situation, the first suspension is 6 games, considering mitigations, meaning that they'll certainly review the situation to see maybe what prompted it to happen. Basically get the facts on what it is that happened. But the first incident that a player has a domestic violence, a 6-game suspension. The second time, that's it, a lifetime ban from the NFL. I like the upgrade. In my personal opinion, I think that 8 games instead of 6 games should be the suspension. Now, again, I like the fact that they have added in there that they're going to basically take a look at the case to see what happened. Just being honest, I think most of our listeners by now, have been in a relationship or two, and sometimes when arguments happen, disagreements happen, tempers flare, things can get a little bit out of control. Now, let me say this first very clearly: I do not, by any means, support or think that putting your hands on a woman is okay. I said that very clearly, so let's not misconstrue or mistake my words. But again, being a real man, and I think that my ladies out there can be honest with themselves if they like to, but we're going to be honest on this show. Again, when you have a mate, probably especially in a case where maybe you've been with someone for a very, very long time, in the heat of the moment, anything can happen. Women sometimes may, put their hands on the man, and the man retaliates. Again, I'm not saying it's right, but when it comes to relationships, I think I am very fair in saying that things can be instigated and things can happen. And so I think that it's fair that they're going to review these cases. But again, the new procedures is a first time 6-game suspension, second time lifetime ban. And it's really relevant because the NFL has a couple cases coming up to where we're going to see if this policy actually holds true. We have defensive end Greg Hardy for the Carolina Panthers. He had a domestic situation he was involved in. So the NFL is going to have an opportunity to enforce their new policies on him. And then Ray McDonald, defensive tackle for the San Francisco 49ers, within the last week got involved in a domestic violence situation. So we're certainly going to keep our eye on that to see how those things play out. And it should be interesting. My other quick note on that before we go to a commercial break, the NFL receives a lot of flack for not punishing these players correctly. But my question is, what about the courts? What about the law system? What about, the judges and the juries and the attorneys who these football players are getting in front of? Let's be honest out there. We all know that celebrities and high-profile people who have money, they have the ability to get a much lesser punishment than the average person walking around on the street. Okay, and so my issue with this is, sure, the NFL certainly should receive a high level of scrutiny if they're not punishing players correctly. But my thing is, if these players are being punished in the court of law, then that's half the battle. Okay, because these guys always come away with just community service or a $500 fine or going to some class and that's it. Meanwhile, if it's an average person walking down the street, then these individuals they end up with jail time. They end up getting probation. So I certainly wanted to make that note. All right, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. It's the NFL Exporter live on Raw Radio. Listen to the Exporter Sports Talk Show. And when we come back from a commercial break, we'll go ahead and start looking at the full slate of NFL games. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.